After much searching, I finally found 3 stories set during school lockdowns. It was a typical, dull Friday afternoon in calculus class, the 7th period of the week. With spring break around the corner, I could sense the restlessness of my classmates. Unlike many of my friends who had tests that day, we were fortunate. Our laid-back teacher decided to play games online instead. While we were engaged in a brand logo quiz, I remember the moment it happened clearly. Just after my friend correctly answered a question, Adidas, the dean's frantic voice crackled over the loudspeaker. He urgently instructed all teachers to go into lockdown, emphasizing that this was not a drill. I felt chills run down my spine as our typically relaxed teacher sprang into action, turning off the lights and ushering us into the back corner of the room. We sat in silence for about 2 minutes, during which the usual buzzing from the panel in the back of the room ceased, indicating that the school had cut the power. We exchanged worried glances, realizing the seriousness of the situation. Minutes later, we heard a man screaming in the hallway, sending 2 girls in our class into tears and heightening our fear. As the screaming grew closer, the man began banging on the lockers, shouting, "I'll kill all of you." At that moment, a sense of dread washed over me. My teacher tried to hush us as we exchanged terrified looks. The banging shifted to our classroom door, prompting one of the crying girls to scream, "No!" The pounding intensified as the man yelled for us to open up. Now, 2 girls were sobbing uncontrollably. It felt like an eternity, but eventually, the man continued down the hallway, his screams fading away. About 10 minutes later, though it felt like half an hour, the dean returned to the loudspeaker. He explained that a mentally unstable individual had entered the building and assaulted the woman at the front desk, prompting her to flee in terror. Staff were unsure if the man was armed. This incident occurred before the school had cameras or adequate security measures, leaving us vulnerable. After sweeping the hallways and classrooms without locating him, the dean instructed teachers to resume their lessons while keeping all doors locked and not allowing any students to leave. The most disturbing detail emerged later. A janitor discovered the man sleeping in a storage closet near the back of the school. According to rumors, he had a .44 Magnum in his pocket. The janitor must have inadvertently woken him, as by the time police arrived, the man was gone. To this day, my classmates and I remain unaware if he was ever apprehended, but I hope he is receiving the help he needs. My school had 2 lunch periods, the first for 6th graders and some 7th graders, and the second for the remaining 7th graders and all 8th graders. The lockdown occurred in early October on an overcast, rainy day. During the first lunch period, I heard 4 loud booms. Initially, I thought it was thunder, but the lunch crowd erupted in screams. I assumed they were overreacting until campus security rushed in, instructing everyone to move to the multipurpose room. Those in line for lunch had to discard their food. My friends and I joined a large group of students in the multipurpose room, which has a huge back wall of see-through glass. As we were ushered inside, security covered the glass with curtains and stationed adults at every exit. My friend Eric, curious about the situation, asked one of the adults what was happening. When he returned, he said, "You know those houses right in front of TMS? There's a mentally unstable man barricaded in front of his house, threatening to commit suicide and harm the police if they try to evict him. He was watching the kids in a creepy way." It turned out that the man was also a registered sex offender, making the situation even more alarming. We were stuck in the multipurpose room for a whole hour, missing 2 periods. Once the situation was resolved, we were escorted back to our classrooms one by one. I later learned that the man lived next to my friend Brandy, who recounted a previous Halloween incident where she saw him at his window, cutting his arm and writing in his own blood, "Don't come here or I'll kill you." At the time, people, including Brandy, thought it was a Halloween prank. However, after this horrific incident, we realized how dangerous he truly was and felt relieved he never approached us. Now, at 22 years old and fresh out of college, I recently secured a job as a computer intern at my old high school, working in the messy and disorganized basement. Despite the chaos, there is a small, pleasant 3-person office equipped with 3 large desks, 2 mini fridges, a flat-screen TV, and air conditioning, a luxury for students and teachers alike. I landed this job thanks to 3 of my former computer teachers, who considered me a friend rather than just a student. Everything was going well until something unsettling happened a few weeks ago. My 2 coworkers, Dave and Gary, were upstairs working on papers while I enjoyed my lunch break. Suddenly, I received a phone call from a woman in the front office informing me that the school was on lockdown due to a possibly armed individual inside the building. With no door to our office, just a large opening, and the basement door lacking a working lock, my only option was to turn off the lights for safety. I silenced my computer and sat in the dark, texting both Gary and Dave, but they didn't respond. I waited in the dark for about 20 minutes, playing games on my phone, unsure of what was happening upstairs. Just then, the creaking of the basement door echoed, and I sat up, debating whether to call out for Gary or Dave. My heart raced as footsteps approached my office. I quickly crawled under my desk, overwhelmed by fear. Someone entered the office without turning on the lights, leaving only silence. I felt paralyzed. One wrong move could expose me. Suddenly, my phone dinged with a text message, causing my heart to race even more. Footsteps moved closer, and in a panic, I dove out from under the desk, pleading for my life. To my relief, a man in a red plaid shirt and cap grabbed my arm and pulled me up. "Hey, I'm just hiding down here with you. What's going on up there?" he asked. I whispered my question back, but he ignored it and asked if there was an exit. I pointed in the direction and then asked who he was. After a brief silence, he explained that he had come to pick up his son when a teacher told him to hide. Just then, I checked my phone and saw a text from Dave. "Dude, this is crazy. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." I was about to read the text aloud to the man when I looked up and felt my stomach drop. He caught my suspicious gaze, and panic set in. I bolted for the stairs, just as a gunshot echoed through the basement, followed by the sound of a bullet ricocheting off something metal in the darkness. Miraculously, I made it upstairs, where police were waiting at all exits, apprehending the man as he opened the door. Fortunately, our teacher, Mr. Buckley, survived the gunshot. It was later revealed that he and the man had some unresolved conflict, though the specifics were never disclosed. All we knew was that Mr. Buckley had done nothing to provoke such a violent reaction. The sound of that gunshot would forever echo in my mind.